Hello, welcome to Duncan Egg Bricks and to a very special review video, set that I've gone back and forth on whether or not I should get it, and eventually decided that yes, I absolutely wanted to get it. You've read the title. It is of course set number 10497, the Galaxy Explorer. So this is one of the LEGO 90 Years of Play sets which have been released. There's the Lion Knight's Castle. There's another set which has lots of little mini builds detailing the kind of history of LEGO, and I'm sure there are a few others. I think the Forestman's Hideout as well. That was the gift with purchase as one as well. But I decided to go for this one. I, believe it or not, am not old enough to remember classic space. I was born in the 90s, so one of the earliest space sets that I can remember is 6463, the Lunar Rover. I believe I've got that right, with a fantastic half sphere, that wonderful gold faceted pattern, which is great. So that's the kind of earliest space set I can really remember getting, but obviously I'm aware of the very classic blue and grey and trans yellow colouring of classic space. And given that the castle is £350 and I already have a very big castle just over there, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for this set. So I think I'm going to crack it open, get it built, and then let you know my thoughts. And of course, I'm going to build the main build first, but if you didn't know, I'm very late to the party on actually getting this video out. There are 3 builds you can make from the pieces in this set. This is the largest and uses all the pieces. There's a mid-sized one and a small one, and they are all reproductions of sets that came out in the 70s and 80s. But I'm obviously going to go and build this one first, and then in the future, going to go ahead and take a look at the alternate builds. So let's get started and get this all built up. The finished build is really something to behold. It's enormous, and I did see it in the LEGO store, and in fact decided then that I wasn't going to get it, which I've obviously gone back on, but until you get it in hand, you really don't appreciate just how enormous this set is. Obviously, see the size of a minifig, kind of the width of a hand can go 2/3 of the way across it, depending on how you measure, but the entire thing is massive. So I'll just give a brief spin around so you can appreciate it from different angles all the way around here. Lovely section of blue at the back there, just looks great all the way around. Yeah, it's a completely ridiculous build. I did document some of it on my Instagram story. Such a satisfying thing to put together, and yeah, a really great build, and that's the main thing we're going to look at. But before we do that, we should take a quick look at the included minifigs, which obviously does not include this one. Now, you do get 4 minifigs in this set, but I am only showing 2 of them, and that's because you get 2 of each of these classic or neo-classic astronauts in white and red, and these look absolutely amazing. It's not the first time that we've had these reproductions of these classic minifigs. In fact, we got a pack of 4 differently coloured ones to coincide with the LEGO Movie 2. That was Benny's Space Squad, where we got a couple, or at least one, I think, the pink one that we hadn't actually seen before. Apparently, it's been quite a long time since we've actually had a red one, so it's cool to get those. You get 2 of them in the set, as I said, and the white one is, for all intents and purposes, identical to the one from Benny's Space Squad. They come complete with those classic LEGO smiley faces, which, you know, by today's standards are completely lacking in detail, but they have such a charm about them. The printing detail has been not updated, but it's been refined. You've got that golden sheen and then the spaceship flying in front of it. The helmets are obviously using the updated newer mould, which has a thicker chin strap. These are distinct from the one that was created for Benny in the LEGO Movie, which has that sort of fake break in the chin strap, which is obviously imitating what actually used to happen to these minifigs. Being reproductions of classic minifigs, they of course don't have any alternate faces. Wasn't even an idea back then. They are identical apart from the colouring, come with those classic air tanks, and they look absolutely fantastic, which is a word I overuse so much, but it's so accurate here. And the temptation to now go and get every other modern colour of astronauts. So I think we've got pink, we've got yellow, we've got blue. I think you can make from various bits and pieces, or of course you can get a Benny minifig, and then there was an orange one that came in a History of the Lego minifigure book. So keep an eye out for those in future videos, or just in the background of future videos if I do manage to get my hands on them. Now, as I said, there are 2 of each of these, but you do get 1 additional figure in the set, and I will briefly show you that now. The reason I called this a figure and not a minifigure should be very obvious. This is a brick-built robot. It's actually a replica of one that didn't come in the original Galaxy Explorer set, came in a later space set, but they've managed to faithfully replicate it, of course with the updated grey colours, but all the pieces are exactly the same, and in this instance he's actually been given 2 clear coffee mugs, because obviously you've got to have a coffee mug in a Lego own brand set. They're not red as in the city sets, they are very futuristic clear. Obviously by today's standard it's very bulky and basic looking, but it's charming in its own way. It's kind of got vibes of the original Marvin in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV series, if anybody still remembers that. That kind of clunky robot aesthetic, which is absolutely perfect for this set. Speaking of which, we should go along and have a look at all those fantastic details in the remade Galaxy Explorer. Although I did give you a brief spin around of the set earlier, I do want to focus on the details, and some in particular which just absolutely blew me away. As this is a remake of an existing set, they could have quite easily released that classic set again, swapping out a few parts that are no longer in production. But this set is designed to actually be 1.5 times the size of the original set, the idea being that people who played with the set back then are now about 1.5 times the size they were, so it should feel the same. And I have to say it's very, very impressive. Building techniques that have been included, such as the way that these sides of the wings are attached, are ridiculous. Go and check out my Instagram if you want to see some photos, or in fact any blog that has done a review that shows the building process. But these are all attached using modified plates and modified bricks, and they just perfectly fit along the side of these wedge plates here, completely seamless. You know, there's the odd little bit where there's a tiny little gap that there really isn't a piece to fill, but other than that they look amazing, and make what in the original set was basically just, I think, about 2 plates thick, turns it into something that's a brick and 2 plates, so that's 5 plates in total thick, but just adds this wonderful edge with these cheese slopes going all the way down the edge, including some coloured ones here, and that technique is present here and also on this back section here. Slightly different technique here, where things are more simply attached with just studs on the side technique, but even then all the angles match up perfectly. See if I can get this back on without breaking it. Yeah, so even here that 45-degree angle matches perfectly. So there's a ridiculous amount of thought has been put into the design of this ship. The designer should be commended so highly, because not only were they coming up with something with all these amazing techniques, but they were trying to stay faithful to that original set. One place that they have stayed faithful is the numbering on the side here, LL928. 928 was, I believe, the it was the European number for the set, and also appeared on the American version, or the American, yes. So the whole of America, i.e. Canada, the US, Mexico, South America, all around there, had the 497 set number, hence the number of this set being 10497. So they've got this detail here, and this is printed, as is this emblem on the front here, and as is every other decorated element in this set. There is no sticker sheet, which, you know, for a modern set, especially one with quite a lot of detail, is quite a rarity, and shows the care that they've put into this. I believe the same is true of the big Lion Knight's castle, that there are no stickers in that in that set either. While this is trying to be a sort of replica, the techniques, as I've said, are so far advanced. The main body of the ship, as you might be able to tell here where that printed detail is built at an angle. It's fixed at the front and the back with Technic pins, and that's just a ridiculous building technique, but it looks so perfect. So you've got these slopes here, which are just built normal studs up, and then this behind them, which is built on that angle. And that angle includes 2 of these very large X-Wing or UCS X-Wing style canopies in trans yellow. Not the first time they've appeared, but good to see them again. One thing is that one of mine in particular does have some very visible scratches, which happened in transit, because these are not packaged separately. So I actually chose the windscreen which had fewer scratches to be my front one. I have seen some people who've gone ahead and asked LEGO customer service for replacements, and they will happily provide replacements, but there's no guarantee that those will be any less scratched than the ones you get here. So ultimately, I think I will just save on all the hassle and the shipping fuss, you know, trying to be environmentally conscious, and stick with this. Speaking of environmentally conscious, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but the set did come with this leaflet here, and this is leaflet just saying, we're transitioning from single-use plastic to paper-based packaging. As we progress, you may find a mix of paper and plastic in our boxes. Apart from this piece of paper, and obviously the instruction booklet, there was no paper in the sets. They were all plastic bags. So I don't know when we're actually going to see that transition. It's fantastic that we are, but it does seem to be taking quite a long time to get there. Anyway, let's take a look at the interior. So I've left the other two minifigs inside, and we do actually have room for all 4 figs in this front cockpit section, which is amazing. I believe the original Galaxy Explorer could only seat 2. You can see they sit on these 2x3 jumpers, and they have a lot of printed consoles and details to look at. Try and move this without knocking the camera over. So there's a great print there which shows the layout of the ship, including the 2 cockpits and where the engines are, so maybe it's a kind of status light. And then at the front there are some reproductions of some original printed tiles there, which are there's this one which gets repeated quite a lot, but I think this one and possibly this one are unique. Definitely this one on the side. So some great details which, you know, they weren't necessary, but they went and did, you know, extra. They did the extra mile. There are 2 steering wheels for control. They are not centered in front of the minifigs, which is a slight shame, but they look good nonetheless. And again, it's a nice throwback to the original set. Opening up the back cockpit, we have even more accommodation. Like I said, the 4 figures included can fit in the front cockpit. You can't fit the robot in there as well, but he can fit back here, which is cool. We've also got 2 beds here, and these are designed so that the astronauts can go in them with their air tanks still on. There's no studs to keep them in place or anything like that. They can just sit there, or they can if you move the arm of the astronaut up. There we go, that fits in perfectly, using those ingot pieces to simulate some sort of futuristic bedding type thing. We'll just move him out of the way so you can see better. And like I said, there are some more printed details inside, some more repetitions of various prints. But, you know, it's just lovely to get them in the first place. We've got a new version of that kind of radar scanning thing that we've seen previously on a slope. And in fact, it's another little Easter egg. It's got a symbol there. Those little triangles there are a symbol for Blacktron, which is another classic LEGO space faction. The other Easter egg I thought I'd just point out, that there is a Bionicle Easter egg, which is a Bionicle canister, obviously being discovered on some alien planet. So that's really nice there. And that's not technically the end of the interior space, because there is one extra bit which is very well hidden away and again follows a function from the original set. So back here we've got this large blue bit which has the main engines on the rear, but it also holds another secret, and we can actually, as you might be able to tell, split it open, and inside is basically a garage. You've got a tool on one side and a walkie-talkie on the other side, and then here we actually have a hatch that opens up from the main crew compartment to the rear, so it's kind of simulating an airlock. Obviously not an actual airlock, as you'd need 2 doors for that, but it's a really nice feature nonetheless, and keeps this kind of garage bay thing separate from the rest. In fact, if I tilt this up, you can see all the way down to that red astronaut sitting at the front, so it is possible to pass between the 2 cockpit areas. Not only that, but this also holds another feature. If we just pull down here, we find that this is actually hinged, and then the black tile, it's an 8x16 tile that is just resting in here. It's free floating, and we can pull it all the way forward. You can just see the rover with the little buggy's wheels going backwards, and then we can actually let it drop, and it deploys the buggy automatically as it goes below these Technic pins. So that's a fantastic feature. I don't believe the original set included any kind of mechanism for getting the buggy down. And just take a very brief look at the buggy. It's very, very simple. Can seat 1 figure here with possibly a second one standing on the back there. You know, nice little build, nothing too crazy there. But it's just so nice, and obviously you can pretend to drive it back up and then just pull the ramp up and slide it in. The ramp is just held in place with a 1x5 Technic plate that just keeps it locked in there without actually being attached to anything. And then, yeah, just fold that up, just studs back in, close that, close that all up, and yes, you can put an astronaut on the buggy and then include it inside the hangar. A couple of other details on here which are amazing. First of all is this thruster. This is sort of not reaction controls, they've got a proper name in space terminology, and this is a reproduction of a smaller piece which was just a single piece, and that I believe was actually in production not too long ago, but because this is a scaled up version, they've reproduced it. These are actually just 3 grey buckets, and the entire thing is movable, so you can pretend that it's controlling the spaceship in different directions. And then the other feature here, you might have seen it from the inside when I opened the garage, is this arrow. Now, on the original set, this was a 1x2 printed brick, and they decided not to go for that and scale it up. What they actually did was brick build it. That is a Nexonite shield tile inside there. These are a couple of panels here, and then these are slopes underneath. In fact, if I open this up again, you can see that's an inverted 2x2 tile, and those are a couple of brackets holding the whole thing in. So this is actually free floating, it's just locked in place with the pieces around it. It's a absolutely ridiculous building technique, and it's so satisfying to put together and see it work, and it makes me so happy that they decided to go for that. Although, as I've said before, the nice prints are a very good inclusion. There's one final detail that I can really think of in this build, and I may have actually spoilt it when I did my initial spin round because I'd forgotten to hide it again, and that is the engines on the side. So these engines at the back are fixed, but the ones up on the wings are actually detachable, so they're just clipped in on either side. You've got to be kind of careful how you remove them. The clip on this side is quite well held in, but the clip on this side is actually only held in by one additional piece, so you kind of tilt it forward and backward, and that pops out nicely. Now, why would you want to do that? And the answer is because you can spin it upside down, pop these up, and they become levers, and then you take one of your astronauts and you can pop him on top of the engine, put the levers in his hand, and there we actually have a secondary craft. This really is a feature that harkens back to those days of classic space. Perhaps not as early as this, but some later themes within that, where you had sort of mini craft that could break off from the main one. So this makes a very overpowered, by the looks of it, single person scooter type thing, and in fact you can clip it back in like that if you want to. So yeah, just a nice little detail. They can both do that, and you know, it's a nice little additional thing they didn't have to do, but they decided to go for it just to add a little bit more value. There's just one final feature which I haven't mentioned yet, mainly because it's been doing a good job at actually supporting the craft, and that is to take a look underneath at the landing gear that are included. So you can see here there are 3 landing gear, 2 at the rear and 1 at the front, and they're made using these 4x4 curved tile kind of pieces that come from the Super Mario line, here redone in light bluish grey. And the way that they actually function is you don't have to remove them or anything, you just slide them back and they fit absolutely flush with the underside of the ship, to the point where if you didn't know that they were there, you probably wouldn't even guess. There are a couple of dishes here as well, simulating perhaps some sort of thrusters for landing. So yeah, these landing gear are utterly ridiculous. They're so simple, really, but they are well and truly secured into the frame. You have to be a little bit careful when you pull them out. They're only just studded in like that, and there's nothing on top holding them. So you've just got to make sure that you keep that pressed in. But once they're there, they swing out far enough that you can just lock them down like that. Just have a little look underneath the ship, and yeah, they just support the ship completely. They're nice and sturdy. Obviously you don't want to push too much because it is only Lego at the end of the day, but they support the entire thing, and they really are a fantastic feature that you know, really improves on the design of the original. Oh, one of my red astronauts has fallen out of his seat, obviously way too excited. Yeah, it's just such a fantastic feature. They need to bring it in on more Star Wars sets is all I'll say. Yeah, so there we are. That really is the Galaxy Explorer, a wonderful remake, update, homage to a classic bit of Lego's history, pun intended. And if you're interested at all in classic space, or you just want a really good build or something that's going to look amazing on display, then I would wholeheartedly say go ahead and get it. Just here I have the spare parts, just the usual things you'd expect, small ones, and a brick separator. Just one other thing, the colours that come in this set are designed specifically, and actually says in the instruction manual, that's another thing, there are lots of nice little facts and things scattered throughout the instruction manual, as well as a bit of info at the beginning. All the colours are ones that were available at the time the original Galaxy Explorer was created, so even the interior just sticks to the main colours. The one exception is light bluish grey, because at the time it was just light grey. Those colours were updated in the early 2000s. So with the exception of that, every single other colour was available, and I think it helps to give a really classic feel to this set, while also still with the colourful interior underneath all this grey makes it a super fun and super easy build. So one last thing to do is to put this in some context, because I really want to display this and may display it in a sort of flying pose in future if I decide to get a stand. But for now, I have decided where I'm going to put it, and it's going to be my little Lego Classic Themes celebration shelf. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So for a little while I've been debating about how to display my medieval blacksmith set. I did originally have this on a separate table at the old house, but it's now been moved into the main Lego display. And I didn't really have any sets to go with it. I did have it with my collection of Speed Champions cars, but obviously there's quite a bit of disconnect between a medieval blacksmith and some more modern cars. And you might say, but hang on, this is a spaceship. There's quite a little bit of disconnect there as well. But the way I'm looking at it is my kind of celebration of classic Lego themes. Obviously, this is tied into the castle theme. While it's not a castle in and of itself, it definitely is part of that theme, especially with the Black Falcon Knights coming to pay a visit. And I thought, why not have classic castle and classic space here on one display? And I have to say, I think the overall effect, while a little bit jarring maybe, once you know what it's really about, I think looks really good. Like I said, I might display the Galaxy Explorer in some sort of flying pose, you know, tilted towards the viewer. And I'm not sure about keeping the box there behind. I don't normally keep boxes, but this one is such a nice box that I might make an exception, perhaps cut it up and, you know, get it framed, you know, the front of it or something like that. I'll see. I'm not going to get rid of it anytime soon anyway. So yeah, this is my little classic space shelf. And if I do go ahead and get astronauts or spacemen of different colours, then I might do a little display along the front here or something like that. But until then, I have to say, I think this looks amazing on display. It's really, I think, going to become quite a collector's item, although it is already, but even more so over the next few years. So if you have any interest at all in this set, or if I've made you interested, then I wholeheartedly recommend you go out and get yourself one. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. If you liked the video, please give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews and mock videos. And if you like this channel, then please share it around with people who might be interested in it. Thank you so much, and I will see you again very soon.